Ever walk down a street you've known your whole life and suddenly get hit with this feeling like something's different? Like
Hmm.
maybe it's the stops or the people, but something just feels off.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's kind of what we're diving into today, how America itself is, but, well, changing.
Hmm.
We're calling this one America's Changing Colors, taking a deep dive into how the racial and ethnic makeup of the U.S. is undergoing a major, and I mean major, transformation. And honestly, this impacts all of us way more than we might think.
Yeah, what's really interesting here is that it's not just like a gradual shift, it's a real acceleration.
Yeah.
The data we're looking at shows that since 1990, the non-white population in the U.S. has practically doubled.
Double.
Doubled.
Whoa, okay, so we're talking about what, like over 40% of the U.S. population now identifying as non-white?
That's right. As of 2023, the Hispanic population makes up the largest group within that 20%, while the black population sits at about 13%.
Okay.
But the one that's really fascinating is the Asian or Pacific Islander population. It's coming in at almost 7% and growing faster than any other group in the country.
Yeah, that's a point I definitely highlighted from the data too. Fastest growing. Why is that? What's driving that increase specifically for that demographic?
Well, it's a bunch of things coming together. Immigration, of course, plays a part, but it's not the whole story. We're also seeing higher birth rates within certain Asian American communities compared to other groups. You put all that together, plus cultural and economic factors, and you get this kind of surge in growth. And it's changing, like, the fabric of American society in some pretty big ways.
So it's not even just about the numbers themselves, it's how these changes are shaping everything. Our communities, our culture.
Exactly.
It's like the source we're looking at had this really stark comparison. In 1990, if you looked at 20 people in the US, 15 of them would identify as white. Today, that's down to 12 out of 20. I mean, that's a huge shift in just a few decades.
It is.
What does that tell us about where we're headed?
Well, it tells me that understanding these demographic shifts
Mm-hmm.
is going to be key to navigating the future, because one thing is clear, the future is diverse, and it's these shifts that are going to bring new challenges and new opportunities.
Yeah.
Like, take that growth in the Asian or Pacific Islander population. It's not just a statistic, it's impacting everything from business to education to politics. It's huge.
It makes you wonder what those 20 people will look like a few decades from now. It's like we're watching the future unfold right in front of us.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of the future, the data we were looking at highlighted another group that's growing super fast, the multiracial population here in the U.S.
Oh, absolutely. That really stood out to me, too.
Yeah.
It shows you how much things are changing, like globally even.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about these rigid categories anymore. People identify with multiple backgrounds. It's not so simple. And the data is reflecting that, which is fascinating.
Yeah, and it's not even just like a slow and steady thing. It's like, bam! The projections show that over the next 4 decades, we're talking the next 4 decades, the multiracial population will be the fastest growing group in the U.S.
Wow.
Not just fast growing the fastest.
It really makes you rethink, like, how are we even defining race and identity?
Yeah.
I mean, those categories make less and less sense, especially for younger generations.
Totally.
They're growing up in a totally different world than we did, so much more diverse.
Mm-hmm.
This just shows you those old boxes don't really fit anymore, which is a good thing.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about how different things will be.
Oh,
Like
sure.
everything from how we even collect this kind of data to just like how we view ourselves in society.
It's huge.
It's a fundamental shift.
It is, and it's all happening at the same time as these other changes we're talking about.
Right.
Like, remember how we were saying the Asian or Pacific Islander population is practically doubled since 2000?
Yeah.
It's all connected. I mean, the U.S. is becoming more diverse, more interconnected.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're seeing all these massive shifts, but let's bring it down to earth for a second.
Yeah. Okay.
What does this all mean for the average person? It's easy to hear about all this and think, yeah, that's interesting, but
Right.
like, what does it actually mean for me?
Exactly.
What does it mean for the person listening to this right now?
Well, it's shaping the world around us, even if we don't realize it.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Like, where we decide to live, the schools our kids go to, the stuff we buy every day, even the politicians we vote for. It's all connected to these changes.
It's not just numbers on a page, it's about the future we're building together.
Exactly. And it's not just about, like, acknowledging it. It's about making sure everyone benefits.
Right, how do we actually do that, though? Especially with all these shifting ideas about race and identity. How do we make sure we're being inclusive and not making things worse?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I don't think there's a simple answer. Part of it is talking about these things. challenging our own assumptions, recognizing that these different experiences and perspectives actually make us stronger.
This whole conversation has been really eye-opening. We've talked about these huge demographic shifts and what they mean for the country, but also what they mean for our everyday lives. And it seems like the big takeaway is the future is diverse. The question is, how are we each going to be a part of shaping that future?